Hello YouTube, it's Trust, and welcome to the 4th episode of the Bear Hug Radio, where the goal is to get to know bears that add value to the community. 4th guest on the Bear Hug Radio is Moo. This bear is a trader by day and a project owner by night. Take a second to follow my guy on Twitter. He is super knowledgeable about the space and even has a non-profit podcast called Solana Insight that teaches people about DeFi. In this episode, Moo drops some serious alpha on the bear market. He also talks about his project, Player 2. We also have a conversation about the OK Bear. So we are joined here by P2 Moo. First off, I just wanted to ask you, do we say P2 Moo, Player 2 Moo, or how do we say it, and where does it come from?
You can just call me Moo. P2 is kind of like our clan tag almost, which kind of shows our age. So P2 means player 2. So that's the project that we're building. P2 is just a tag. So anyone that identifies as the tag, you can use it similar for how you can put the OK emoji for OK bears. How you have TYR for Tayos. It's just a tag.
Cool. Where did it come from though? Player 2, is that from Ready Player 1, Player 2?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So naming our project was actually I would say the second most challenging thing we had to do. There were many criteria, and I don't think I've shared this publicly, so this might be the first time it's coming out.
Oh, got some alpha here.
Some alpha. Story behind the name. It's really hard to name something with this many criteria that we had, and I think it was a list of like 10 or 15 points. I don't remember everything right now, but some of the bigger ones were, it had to be a name where it would almost bring some sort of nostalgia in, because our game is going to be launching in black and white pixel art, so it does have to convey that degree of nostalgia. It has to be something where it's easily rememberable. So like it can't be something too crazy like you have this weird spelling and it's hard for people to translate that spelling to other people. So it has to be easily rememberable and translatable. And for translation itself, we also wanted to make our game available to the international community. So we also had to have something where it could be translated to other languages that it wouldn't sound too odd. And we needed the name to also convey that we're a game, but at the same time, it can't be too specific, meaning it can't elude someone who's thinking, oh, it's a shooter game or an RTS game or any specific genre. It has to be kind of like more of a general kind of game. And this is because we're going to be doing a lot of things in Player 2. It's kind of like a huge, vast metaverse, and there are different components to it. So we do need sort of a more general term. And one of the biggest ones is that it had to give some sort of suspense, mystery, something that you want to ask a question. Like, why Player 2? Like, who's Player 1? Or where is Player 1? What happened in Player 1? So I think that actually became true because people started asking us. I was like, yeah, hit the nail on the head, fantastic. And the last but not least, it has to have a proper meaning, right? A story behind it. You can't name your project something completely random with no meaning behind it. So yeah, it was massively hard, and we came to Player 2, and that kind of checked all the boxes. And the meaning behind Player 2 really is we view people as multifaceted. Yourself, Trust. Should I call you Trust or Phil?
Just Trust is fine.
All right, Trust. Right. So like yourself, Trust. We behave one way when we meet, friends. Another way when we meet strangers, maybe we're a little bit more, reserved. A different way when we are with our spouse. And many people behave in a completely different way when they're online, simply because, maybe they feel safer. They're behind like a screen. No one sees their face. It doesn't mean that that's a different person altogether. That's just a different facet, right? So we took that concept and we're like, all right, so in real life, you're Player 1 and you're in World 1. That's kind of like in real life. But in our game, you are Player 2. And that's going to be your avatar. You choose whatever that may be. It can be a unicorn, a cow. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you want to be, that's your avatar. That's you as Player 2. And our world is World 2. And to dig on the old nostalgia thing, if you look at our website, when you go in, you can see the Player 1 and Player 2 select. But we kind of crossed out Player 1. So you can't use Player 1 in our game. You are by default Player 2. That's the name. That's the origin stories of our name.
Ah, very cool, very cool. I like that it was so well thought of and so much detail into it. And yeah, I do agree with you that people act differently when they're on Web3, like because they have a barrier where they have the computer in front of them. And then sadly, when you're on Twitter, people just like they go off because they're like, you can't find me, you don't know where I am. So they gain a layer of confidence or something. But yeah, I do like the aspect of being player two, where you're playing a game and like Ready Player One, where you put on the goggles and you go to
Mm.
you go to the other world, I guess.
Exactly. And speaking of Ready Player One, we're big fans of that movie, and we kind of envision that our metaverse will one day be fairly similar to that. A little bit more expanded than that, because in Ready Player One, you are playing a game, whereas ours is meant to mimic real world, right? So you can actually work inside Ready Player Two. You can get employed, there are jobs, there's services in there which you can pay for. So it's a whole actual commerce ecosystem going on in there. But the bonus point in the naming is that, if we name ourselves Player 2, then at some point, Ready Player 1 is going to launch Ready Player 2, and that may have some sort of a spillover marketing effect. We're hoping to get a bit of that draft as well, so that's the other bonus.
All right, so let's talk about you a little. Where are you from?
I can't give too many personal information since we're not docked for security, but my personal journey into crypto wasn't too far back actually. It was end of 2020, so that's where the big bull run really started, I guess. It peaked at last year November. I was introduced, I guess, to crypto way back many years ago, 2015, 2016, 2017. Was very skeptical about the whole thing. Friends were posting on it on Facebook about it, and I'm a trader by profession. I used to work in the banks. I ran my own hedge fund at one point, and I saw the charts. I knew nothing about it, but I saw the charts and I saw the amount of euphoria going on in the streets. I'm like, that shit's gonna crash 100%. And everyone's like, nah, it's gonna go up, some new technology, blah blah blah. And then it crashed. I'm like, yeah, I told you. And then I never thought about it until late 2020, and I was like, this guy's still around. Like, it crashed, but it's still around and it's making waves again. So maybe worth a second look now that it's sort of stabilized. It hasn't been hitting euphoria state yet, so there could be something there. And that's where I really took a deeper dive and bought my first Bitcoin off Binance with my credit card. So that was my foray into crypto. And then shortly after, I remember ETH just going up, and Bitcoin week after week after week, and it was unbelievable. Again, this is coming from a perspective of a professional trader, hedge fund manager, and we've seen a lot of stuff in the stock market on Wall Street, right? And this is gravity defying. Chart don't make any sense. I'm like, maybe this is something different. And yeah, and then I chanced upon Solana at some point. I bought in at 20 bucks, and then
Oh wow!
First-hand witnessed Solana 10xing in a month, and I was like, I've never seen this in my life, so I became a convert.
Yeah, the first person I had on Strike, he has a funny story where he bought in at 4, but then sold at 8.
Oh no!
So,
well, I have a different story. I bought at 20. I saw it all the way up to 260, I think, and I rode it all the way back down. So full cycle.
oh yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of me when I minted my bear and then saw it to 260, and then yeah, I was really lucky to mint. So yeah, what was your first NFT?
The bear, really?
Your bear was your first NFT?
Yeah, for real. I mean, on Solana. I mean, I was on other chains like Harmony and ETH and stuff like that. I bought a few NFTs, but they were mainly utility NFTs. I never really understood the whole lore and concept of JPEGs with no utility, because I would like to think I'm a very logical guy, so I look at things with cash flow and with sound economics behind things, and these JPEGs are just art, and in real life, it's purely speculation, right? It's what someone else values it, and I can't get behind buying speculative assets. It's just something, I don't know, maybe from my trading days that we're used to always understanding, what's the cash flow for this company, what will be the fair valuation based on your book, blah blah blah. And I'm like, what is the valuation of an art piece. Like I don't even know where to start. So I just avoided it like a plague because I thought it was a huge like Ponzi scam. At the same time, I'm building a project in Web3, right? So I was like, I have to understand the psychology behind this, and the best way to do it is to, well, dive head first. So I bought my bear and I opened Twitter, my Twitter account. I've never used Twitter in my life, and I'm like, I need to learn this because that's where everyone is. So this was, I think, somewhere in March, April. I can't remember. Maybe April, May even. I can't remember. Around that time, that's where I started Twitter, and I was like, I need to get involved in NFT space, and that's where I bought the bear. I think like shortly after I started Twitter, the bears exploded, and I bought it, I remember, at $10,000 USD, and it's not worth that. It's worth like a third of that right now, but it's fine.
Yeah.
We're okay.
We're all gonna be okay when the bull market comes back.
Yeah, but I mean, like, to be honest, I looked at it more as a marketing expense, a personal, like, tuition kind of thing. And I will say that I think I've been very fortunate to have the bear as my first PFP, simply because I firsthand could witness how a project could gain so much traction so quickly and somehow be different in the space still, where, you know, people are generally very positive. The community is great. I remember, again, like, I started my Twitter account from scratch. I had no idea what I was doing. I got a bear PFP. Suddenly I have like 200 followers, and it's very heartwarming because the first week I was just struggling. I couldn't even get like 5 to 10 people to follow me, much less 200.
Yeah, it's a game. When you start Twitter, basically, you have to know how to get followers because you have a project right now. And part of the marketing aspect is one of the biggest part, you know, like community managers and how to get people to see your project, because you have this amazing thing, but then if no one sees it, no one can know about it. And that's where you have to like know how the Twitter game goes.
I fully agree. Like, Twitter is a learning curve, right? And it's a steep learning curve at that too. But I think what really resonated with me was the community, right? And I think before buying the bear, I had no idea what community meant. Like, people kept saying, oh, you buy a PFP to be part of a community. I'm like, why would I want to be part of a community? Like, it makes no sense. I have friends in real life. But then I got a bear and I understood. I'm like, all right, cool. And I saw people like writing stories of how, you know, like some dude was a nurse, I think, in the Philippines, and he minted a bear just like you, and it was life-changing money for him, literally like his 2-year salary, if he sold the bear at the point. And he said he didn't want to, simply because he's depressed in real life, and the only thing he looks forward to every day is coming online and chatting in Discord with the bears, right? So I was like, wow, okay, now I understand like how powerful this can be, that, you know, it keeps people going. And I saw someone else that had a coral bear that sold it for like, I don't know, 200 grand or something, and the guy's life completely changed. And that really opened my eyes. And, you know, just being super transparent, I still don't believe that the economics of all these things are going to work out, but at this point I can't deny the power of the community and how that helps people with their life, and how it could change some people's life and help others cope. And if that's the value, then fantastic, I'm all for it.
Hey, sorry for the interruption, but if you got this far, why don't you hit the like and subscribe button? It really helps my channel grow. Yeah, it's crazy because I know that not everyone has all the money. I know that there's people with like 30, 50, 100 bears and stuff, and maybe they invested in crypto.
HDE.
Yeah. I mean, they might be just guys that invested in crypto very early. Like you said, you know, you bought it at 4, but what if you sold it, put it in USDC, or if you bought in Ethereum when it was really, really low, or Nate Rivers, who bought a bunch of Bored Apes, or they just have money in real life. If I would have sold at the peak, I would probably had a cash down from my house. But we all thought that it was gonna go higher. Yeah, so I want you to talk about Layer 2. At first glance, it gives me Zelda on the Super Nintendo vibes. Can you like tell me how the game works?
Happy to share. So fantastic. If you're thinking Zelda, then we've done our job. It was actually modeled after the default Mario loading screen, with some of our own spin, of course, but that was the main inspiration. The funny thing is, it's not a game, which is very ironic, but it's really not a game. We have a skin of a game. We've designed it to look like a game, and it will play and feel and operate like a game. But if you look beneath the hood, it's not a game, right? Player 2 is really a platform for businesses to build on. So when I say businesses, I mean like actual businesses. So, you know, if you hop on our server, you would see some of the businesses being test piloted. So you could take a Japanese class. There's this guy called Maki. He runs a Japanese class, has as one of the businesses. If you want to be lazy and want someone else to manage your money for you, there is a TA guy on our server that, he has a fund and you can look at his calls and what he's trading, or he can manage it for you. There is a dermatologist on our server that, if you have issues with skin or you want to know a bit more about, sunscreen or whatever it may be, she's happy to help you out. There's a newsletter service in our server. This person writes really good articles, does deep dives in different projects. So, basically anything that you think people would see value in and happy to pay for the service with actual good money, that to me is a legit business, right? And our biggest one is called Sophie AI. She's AI bot that we built from scratch. She's super popular. She's a bit of a celebrity in her own right. She's hilarious, but basically she's able to converse very much like a regular human being, in a very sassy way sometimes. She does burn people quite a lot, which is hilarious to watch. But on the back end, we built her basically to combat Discord grinding. So, in the early days, I think, a lot of projects, especially during the bull run, for them to get whitelisted, you need to go into Discord, you need to be chatting, get to level 20, level 40, wherever you may be. And we thought it was really dumb. Like, why would you waste your time, just saying GMs in Discord all day just to get a whitelist? And then, you may or may not get it to begin with, right? So it's a very silly system where it's a lot of wastage of people's time. And to make matters worse, it just becomes a very distasteful server. You go in and you try to have a genuine conversation and you can't, because people are just spamming, and they're spamming because they have one objective, which is to get level up, right? So I don't even blame the people for doing what they do. The system around it made them the way they are, and we thought, we want to be the change instead of just whining about it. Why don't we do something about it and be the change that we want to see? So we built this bot, and Sophie in the back end, she's able to detect if you're simply spamming, just saying GM, posting emojis with projector, or you're having genuine conversations. So even if you're level 2 but you've been having great conversations, Sophie will nominate you for a whitelist, and that solved our problem. So in our Discord, if you go in, it's just real talk. People are just chatting happily, talking about different things in life, not necessarily crypto related, and we're having a good time. Intelligent conversations, no one's spamming, because you don't have to spam. There's no incentive to spam anymore. And this kind of started gaining a bit of traction, and people are interested in Sophie. So Sophie is deployed in different servers right now, doing test pilots, like I mentioned, and that's another genuine business where people are happy to pay good money for Sophie as a service. So she's a software as a service.
But that's really cool that people are already interested in it, and I'm sure that's a real product that people would pay to get that, because grinding to me is horrible. Like I can't stand it. I have no time for it. I can't be on a server just saying hi, hello to everyone. It's not genuine.
So that's pretty much what I meant by businesses in Player 2. So you just imagine a platform like Amazon or like Etsy, where there's different businesses there, and we've done it in a way where it looks like a game, right? Like a world, like Zelda, as you mentioned. If you go into Pokemon, your Ash Ketchum, there's Professor Oak, there's Pallet Town. So all these other characters in Pokemon, they're NPCs, but in our game, those will be real people. So that's number one. And number two, the different buildings in Pallet Town or Pokemon, those will be businesses. So you can go into the different buildings and you can explore what kind of services they have to offer. So that's how experientially it'll be in Player 2. The official, I don't know if you're going to call it elevator pitch, but the official one-liner that we have is Player 2 is a gamified world that connects businesses and communities. That's pretty much who we are. And it's a simple term, but underlying why this is so powerful is because right now crypto, or most of crypto, is in this really bad Ponzi-nomic cycle where it's a negative sum game. I describe it as a casino where for you to win, someone else has to lose, and the house takes a fee every time you do something, right? So it's a negative sum game. This means that, even though as bear holders, we think we're investors, we're really not. For someone else to win, someone else has to lose. I lost like $7,000 just like that. That $7,000 became someone else's exit liquidity, and that's just what the game we're playing in here today is. And again, there's other benefits, as I mentioned, community and all that good stuff, but financially it's really a casino. The only way to break that is if you want all your investors to be able to make money at the same time. So collectively as an investor pool, everyone makes money. Then you need a true source of revenue coming in, right? So you need consumers, and most of crypto, there's no consumers. Everyone's just thinking they're an investor, but they're really not. So we want to break that by bringing in true revenue, and that's where consumers come in. And then all the holders in Player 2, you can finally make money collectively together, just like how you invest in an actual startup or stock market. So that's kind of the thing we want to really break and provide that new model in crypto. So that's part one, and so we call that generating true revenue. And part two is having intrinsic value. So say what you want, we love Solana. Obviously we're building on Solana, but if everyone floors their soul, it goes to zero. Like same as Bitcoin, same as every other token in existence, or NFTs. So we want to, and that's really scary for most people, which is why we don't have mass adoption. That's one of the main reasons. The risk is so high, people just call crypto a scam or a Ponzi.
Yeah.
There's certain truth there, right? So what if you actually had intrinsic value, like an actual stock or equity, where if I buy Apple shares today, I own part of Acquisition, right? I mean, there are hierarchies to who gets paid out, yada yada, but I actually own a part of the company itself, which has intrinsic value. It's not the same in crypto, so we're like, how do we solve that? And so our tokens are all backed by USDC. So that's the other thing. So it won't go to zero. There is an actual intrinsic value there, and the way we've constructed our ecosystem is that it keeps feeding into the reserve, so that backing just keeps going up over time, as long as there's some activity in player 2. So those are the two things that we're really focusing on: true revenue and intrinsic value. And we call this the value meta, and we hope that other projects will catch on to this, because I think that's really necessary in our crypto ecosystem today, and that's how we can really move forward to building that sense of it's not a scam, there's intrinsic value, and maybe one day with enough of this happening, then we will see adoption grow.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I was looking at the P2 Farmers Genesis series on Magic Eden, goes at 0.28, and I could see that there's buyers every day. So yeah, like especially yesterday, there was at least like 30 buyers in 2 days. So is the bear market affecting you?
Great question. I love how you're going straight at it. We like to call ourselves a bear market proof project, simply because our assets are backed by USDC. It doesn't really matter if the market crashes tomorrow, right? Our farmers are going to hold value because it's backed. So what's actually interesting is, I think, and this is a really sad way to gain fame, but I think that if a really bad crash happens, people will start flocking to player 2, simply because we're bear market proof. Like our SOL price will keep going up simply because we minted in USDC, we built our own launchpad, and our farmers are back. If you look at the details, the metadata of the farmers, you would see that there's actually a refund value there of 100 DOs. And we'll be IDOing in a month, and our DOs is basically our main currency of player 2, and that's backed again, like I mentioned, by USDC. So we're gonna IDO at 10 cents, which means 100 DOs equals 10 USDC, like plain and simple. And this is just at IDO price, right? We expect the price to go up. I won't go into details as to why, but it's math. And right now, if you see our NFT going below 10, it's literally free money. So if you convert the SOL amount to USDC and it's below 10, it's free money. So yeah, we went as far down as $7. I had this monologue which I pushed out like a day or two ago, and I was talking about the market psychology behind what's going on, and how interesting it is for people to be flooring it at 7 despite intrinsic value being 10. And I explained it, and I think internally people who have been reading up about player 2, we're like playing this game of chicken almost. I'm like, all right guys, let's not sweep the floor even though it's free money, to see how far it'll go, because these people obviously have no idea what they're investing in. And then I think at $7 it broke. Like everyone just like, screw it, we're just gonna buy. It's too crazy at this point, and people went crazy and swept it up. So like I think within like 24 hours it went from like $7 all the way to like 12 or something, and you almost double your money in a day. And then right now it's coming back down, so we're like, all right guys, it's time to play chicken again. Please don't push it up, don't sweep. We need more fun in player 2, so people will just dump it, and we're happy to pick it up. But yes, bear market, very interesting. We are happy with the bear market. It could be our claim to fame. We're also happy that people are just flooring without understanding, and we're big proponents of like education. So please go and do your due diligence if you're buying into a project. You wouldn't be flooring your farmers if you did some degree of searching. We're very transparent.
I totally agree. Can you talk a bit about Solana Insight?
Yeah, sure. So player 2 is its own entity. It does its own thing. Solana Insights is separate as well. Solana Insights is a not-for-profit, but it does cost money, right? So it costs money to run operations, to do the recordings, we send all our podcasts off to get it professionally edited. So like sound checks, gaps and white noise, or silence, all the good stuff. So it does cost money, and we don't accept any paid advertising. No one can sponsor a podcast us. We really just want to talk to people without any biases. So all the operational costs are covered by player 2, which is why it does say that, Solana Insights is made possible by player 2, and that's the link. That's pretty much the only link. So they're both separate things. And Solana Insights was born out of my personal frustrations in the early days, where I'm like, man, like I wish I could find out more about Solana. I love this chain, but I don't know what's on this chain aside from like Radium back then, and that's it. And whatever Radium was like launching and accelerated, that was all I knew. And I was like, how do I search for more things? So it was annoying. I couldn't find anything. And then as I launched player 2, I'm like, all right, I want to let the public know I exist. So I'm like, okay, I go on the Reddit, hey, like we're launching this in Solana, blah blah blah, and then I get banned. Then I go onto the Solana channel on Discord, I talk about it, I get banned. I'm like, how do people discover new projects if all your official channels don't allow people to talk about new projects? And 2, how do I even get the word out about my project that you want more people to learn about and get engaged and find out about their projects, but you don't allow them any form of visibility? I thought was a stupid setup. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna fix this, and I'm gonna open Solana Insights, and I'm gonna go a little crazy and try to talk to every single project that exists in Solana and give them the spotlight that they deserve, so that people can discover more about them, and that's how we're gonna do it, right? And that kind of evolved to a bigger scope where we want to be like, helping people learn about DeFi along the way too, getting them onboarded almost to Solana or crypto in general, and simply be sort of the welcome party. You just started Solana, you don't know anything? Well, check us out. We have a directory of all the different stuff. Here are basic DeFi stuff you should know. These are the wallets that we use. Here's wallet security tips. What's an LP? What's a swap? What's a token? Blah blah. And then you go on your own adventure discovering the different protocols in Solana. So that was the vision. So we started coding 3-4 months ago. I happened to make good friends with a lot of the OGs in Solana. So the names in there, we have like Radium, we have Solan, we have Friction, we have Marinade, we have Audience, we have Hello Moon, a whole bunch of them, Soul Sniper. So I'm very privileged to be able to chat with them. But the idea was really just to talk to as many founders as I can and offer a different angle, right? Because again, the idea here is to onboard normies, so we need to make it less technical. And I really wanted to focus on real conversations and understanding more about their history, their thoughts, what makes them who they are, their values, things like that, rather than being super technical. And if people can vibe with them, because we love stories, right? So if we can connect via stories, then I think people naturally do their own homework into digging more about the project. I don't have to give them all the technical details in the puzzle.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because it's sometimes frustrating when you're looking at a tool and you're trying to get some details on it and you have to read the white paper. But like you say, if you want to onboard normies, they want to get told what it is, and you try to click on the Discord and you have to read these long white paper, and when you read it, you don't really understand anything. So you're like, what can you do? And that's what I was trying to do. YouTube, I was trying to do some utility reviews and stuff like that, and then I decided, hey, why don't I start a podcast talking to a few bears, try to talk to people that are adding value to the community and people that are there. So like spotlighting a different bear every week, and now I'm at 4 bears that I talk to.
Amazing. So congratulations. Keep going, man. Like we need a lot more of this. So I am fully supportive of what you're doing, and well done.
Appreciate you being on. Let's talk about the OK Bears, because we're both holders. What do you think about the new hires for the OK Bear?
I actually don't really know about the hiring. I saw another bear posted that Nate Rivers is now part of the team. I have no idea what capacity he is. So I haven't caught up with the news, so maybe you can fill me in.
We just had an announcement because they were doing the honeypot, right? So they're basically, they call it the next chapter. They introduced like a new community team. They just basically want to get the community engaged with contests, community things. So they want people to see all of what the bear are about, basically.
I'm super excited about the honeypot. I think it's a great initiative. I saw the OK Drip come back to life as well, and those are good names. Like definitely heard of them. Like Drims, I remember he made one of the modifications.
The inflated head.
Inflated, yeah, it's freaking hilarious. I loved it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of exploration to go on with OK Bears and how they are going to continue to build out their brand and their engagement and all this stuff. And I get it. Like it takes a long time to build good stuff. We're in the same boat. mean, we're in the same boat, right? We're building as well. We've been building for 10 months since last year in relative stealth, and it's insane. Like, I don't even believe it's been 10 months because it feels like 10 years in crypto time, but it takes a long time to build good stuff. And I think, unfortunately, most of the crypto Twitter community, they have the attention span of a goldfish, and they want things to be on hype mode every single day. But man, it really doesn't work that way. And I don't want to dismiss, people like that either. So we need to find some sort of middle ground where the true building is ongoing in the background, but you have people on the front taking care of the community in small ways, right? As you mentioned, like small challenges and stuff like that. I think people just want to see activity. It doesn't have to be like huge releases, but at least some form of activity. So I'm fully for this initiative, and I think it's important if we want to stay afloat and relevant.
Yeah, because at one point the OK Bears, a lot of people, there was a lot of FUD, and a lot of people were selling off and not trusting the founders and stuff. And I feel like there was a little turnaround in the past maybe 2-3 weeks and stuff. And I think you feel it in the air. We're going to the right direction. Then people are happy in the discords and a lot more involved, because the bear market hit everyone personally. I think a lot of people lost a lot of money, and some just left, and a lot of people were down, and they wanted results and they wanted everything right now. What do you think the bears need to add to go back to the glory land?
Well, that ties into my earlier statement about NFTs and JPEGs, right? So if you're asking me, a guy, a pure utility guy, I would say actual revenue. We're still in this casino right now. I think you can sustain it that way, and if you want to continue what we're doing by just so-called building a brand, then we need to accept that all your holders are not going to make money, right? It's going to be, again, a negative sum game. Someone wins, someone loses, and the house takes a fee every time something happens. If you're okay with that, then continue on your model. I'm personally not okay with that. I would love to see the holders collectively make money together as a group, as an investor group, and for that to happen, true revenue has to come in. I don't know how they want to do it. They have a lot of power and they have a lot of connections right now, simply because of the bank they have and the visibility they have. That's what I would do if I became Kais or Subby. I don't think the bears are going in that direction simply because they're all about branding, and it's just a different direction. So yeah, wrong guy to ask, man. Completely different take.
If everyone thought the same, then we'd all be in the same place. And that's why I like your aspect of it, because they do need to build something. They need to build revenue. But I know what you mean, and I really like your take, because I feel like the D-Gods are going maybe that direction, where they're trying to build a marketplace with the Utes, where holders can sell their traits on the Utes market and stuff like that. And they also want the applications, they want other projects to start doing that, so they're going to sell their idea and stuff like that. And that's a good point, though. I'm trying to think about how can the OK Bears start generating revenue. That is the $1 million question, I guess.
Almost every single crypto project, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, the grinders are the builders. For example, Famous Fox, they built a token market, and other companies like Blocksmith, and everyone's using Mercury Labs and stuff like that. And that's what we kind of need to find.
It's back to our point earlier where, the real building needs to go on behind, but you do need some form of engagement just to kind of like wave your hand around so people don't get bored. So I think that's where, things like merch comes in, where it does fill the gap. But if that's your entire thing, then gonna be rough.
Yeah, so you have a background in analysis, and what do you think about the market now? Do you think that this is a bear trap, or do you think that we're gonna see a bull market anytime soon?
Sorry to be the party pooper, but I think we have not seen the worst. Like, Max Payne is not here yet. We're gonna see things get worse before they get better. I'm bullish in the long term for crypto, Web3, but given the macroeconomic conditions, given how there's a chain reaction that's happening, and you can't ignore that sequence of events. The governments will do what they can to cushion the blow, but there is a chain reaction. So if you think about it, 2 years ago, the US government, the EU, and parts of Asia as well, they all started printing money, right? The US printed trillions of dollars. Freaking insane. Talk about high APR. Those guys were kings at it at the start. And that nuked the dollar. I think they printed like, I don't know, like what, 3-4x of what the circulating supply was. And the fact that we're only getting 8% inflation is incredible. You should be getting like 400% inflation. So I don't think that it's fully materialized yet. But when you have a situation where free money is given out, which is what really happened, right? The government just bought anything, bonds, treasury bills. They basically gave companies like free money, right? And that trickled down to the people and the economy as well. And we have this risk on mode where you're just getting free money and buying whatever the heck you want and expanding and all that stuff. It's hype, right? So it's like the bull market. Like people are just spending and everything's good. And then all of a sudden you go like, yep, sorry guys, we're gonna stop right now and we're gonna increase interest rates simultaneously. So I stop giving you free money and I make it more expensive for you to get new money. Then people go, oh crap, all right, we need to start saving. So that's where companies pulled back in all these generous offerings. That's where people stop spending on fluff, and that's where your domino effect starts happening. So what happens when people stop spending? Well, companies earn less money. They go into the red, which is why earlier this year, Q1, you see the earnings reports come out and you see the market tanking. Like Facebook dropped 50%, Tesla, Amazon, whatever you name it, all these like big tech companies. Netflix came out and said, oh, we've been losing subscribers, blah, blah, blah. Like all these bad news started coming out simply because people stopped spending. And when people stop spending, companies go into the red, they pull back even further, they start cutting expenses. Easiest one to cut always is headcount. So when you lose your jobs, what happens? You go into panic mode, right? Then you stop spending even more. You start relying on food stamps, whatever you may have. And I'm talking specifically about US, but it is a greater analogy because, our world's all interconnected. So we're starting to see the effects right now. And we're in a stage of the domino where people just started losing jobs or getting pay cuts and the economy's not doing so well. So you have the scenario where you less fiat coming in, but your expenses are going up because it's more expensive. It's a spiral and the government can't do all that much aside from putting back the injection of free money again. So we will have to pay the price. And this is the domino effect. So the price has to be paid and it is coming and it's going to get worse. So if you understand global trade, you understand that things have a buffer. So it's not super terrible. There are emergency rations, there are stockpiles of resources that will deplete over this year and next year. But at some point it gets dangerously low. And that's where I think shit hits the fan. So things like crops, there's a war in Russia and Ukraine. There's a bunch of crops there that they can't export. Oil has gone up tremendously because of sanctions, other reasons. Farmlands, China lost 20% of their capacity simply because of the lack of fertilizer. Potash was something that is a critical component. In Asia, there are places where, there's no more chicken supply. It's crazy. And, people are burning their storehouse right now, their emergency supplies. The countries who are responsible have those, but it will run out. And that's where you really will see, bad things happen to the economy. So I'm personally bracing for that. And I think people should be careful as well. But once we hit that max pain, things should recover. And if you look at all the recoveries of these natures, they're not fast. You hit a low, depression comes in, crab sideways. So don't feel the need to ape in. You'll see a crab sort of situation where it goes sideways, and that's where you can slowly DCA in if you're still, bullish in the future. And that's going to be one of the best times, best discounts you'll ever get. So yeah, that's my take.
Okay. What do you think Bitcoin is going to go all-time lowest?
Oh, at least half, 50% down from here. Same as Solana and everything else. At least 50%.
You think that any time before the end of the year is going to go half?
Before end of the year, November, December, that's where I think max pain will come. So all I will say is that it's not going to be a sudden recovery. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think it'll be a sudden recovery. So whether you buy in December or you buy in March, I don't think it will make a big difference in the grand scheme of things. From December to March, if it starts to climb, maybe you make 20%, 30%, 100%. But that's not life-changing money, right? Life-changing money is 10xing, 100xing, and that's where you need to hold for 3, 4, 5 years. So whether you buy in December or March, I don't think it makes a big difference if you are a true believer in Web3. Slowly accumulate.
Yeah, for all the listeners out there, this is not financial advice. Thank you very much. I won't take any more of your time. Maybe before you leave, can you tell me where we can find you?
Absolutely. If you want to look for me personally on Twitter, my handle is player2move, so fully spelled out. If you want to look for player2, it's player2world on Twitter as well. And our Discord is discord.gg/player2. We live in Discord, that's our home, so that's where most of the activity is going on. A lot of us treat our Discord like our second home. It feels like family for a lot of us there. What gives me energy is the people in the Discord.
Well, I can't thank you enough. Thanks a lot for being on the channel and giving me your time. And I really appreciate it, especially the market analyst at the end. I hope you liked this episode of Bear Hug Radio. Please hit the like and subscribe button and use the comments below to nominate your favorite bear. And who knows, maybe they'll be on the next episode.